Chandler Geary, welcome along. I swear
Thank
you look a
you.
little bit different on your LinkedIn profile picture to here today.
I do. Joining ThreatSpike has made me cut all my hair off, so uh, take that how you want to.
Well, I look a little bit different on my LinkedIn profile picture
You
as well.
do. Maybe I should go for the AI enhancement as well.
AI enhancement, how dare you?
I've heard
Um,
rumors.
so tell me a little bit about how you came to be working at ThreatSpike today.
Yes. So, I've been at ThreatSpike a little over 2 years now, 2 years and a few months. I initially was studying political science for my undergraduate, so or international relations to be specific. So completely unrelated to security and tech and computer science. So it's a question I often get, how did you end up in cybersecurity? And the truth is, I graduated and worked for a year. I didn't really like what I was doing. I had a friend who had done the same undergraduate as me, but had opted to do a master's degree in computer science. And he really encouraged me to pursue a technical path. And we had done some study into some cybersecurity stuff in my undergrad, namely Stuxnet, which is a very famous computer virus that damaged the Iranian nuclear program at a high level. Um, and this really piqued my interest in my undergrad, but we didn't study anything technical about what had happened or how it worked. So the security angle made a lot of sense for me because I linked it to politics I had already studied. In
Really?
reality, yeah,
I
in
did
reality,
politics at university. Tell me a bit more about that link you
so
made.
yeah, it was mainly this exposure I had to studying Stuxnet, and I think I was a little naive in thinking this is what security is. In reality, it's really, really unrelated, but I think it was enough to get me interested to start reading about computers and computer science. So that kind of preliminary study into some cybersecurity events, at least like from a political angle, made me interested to start learning technical stuff. So I started learning the technical stuff, really, really liked it, just found it very, very fascinating. Um, and so I opted eventually to do a master's degree in information security. So this is where
Okay.
I like kind of started in security. So I started learning everything. It was a very steep learning curve because I had no background in computer science, as I mentioned. So it's probably the first time in my life where I've read several textbooks cover to cover, just to absorb as much information as possible. Um, but yeah, so that went well. I completed that over 2 years ago now,
Okay.
and ThreatSpike is where I opted to join after I graduated, and the rest is history.
So how are you finding it at ThreatSpike? What sort of role do you cover?
Sure,
What sort of variety is there in there?
sure. So I started as a operations engineer, so sitting in the operations team, and I know operations means a lot of different stuff at a lot of different companies, but at ThreatSpike, it's kind of 50-50 between the technical side, so managing our software in our client environments, configuring controls, troubleshooting issues with our controls, making sure clients understand security incidents that we raise to them, some security investigations, lots of different stuff. The scope's quite wide. Um, so when I started, the team was much smaller. We didn't have as much organization in how we worked. It wasn't as structured. Uh, there were fewer processes in place. So over time, we've kind of built uh, this kind of structure where we take a new client on board and we handle everything, getting the agent out in their environment, enabling controls, taking them on this kind of security roadmap that we've built to a place where they're mature on our platform. And any of their requirements from a security standpoint are being taken care of if we have the technology to do it. Um, so yeah, that's a very high level, but it's the scope of what we do is quite wide. So it's very hard to get into the nitty gritties and say, this is specifically what I do on a daily basis. But I'd say it's about 50% technical stuff and 50% being in meetings and talking to people about things. Um,
I
so
guess
yeah,
from an uneducated person like myself, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that the controls need a lot of configuration over time with clients. No one blanket, one size fits all approach works for every customer. Every customer's environment is different, right?
Correct, yes. So every customer's environment is different, and a lot of customers use various different security tools despite having ThreatSpike. Um, so they might use something for an email gateway, so we don't touch that. They might use something else for SSL inspection proxy, so we don't touch that. Um, and if we do want to handle various different pieces of responsibility in their environment, it's about making sure we're fitting in with all the other tools they have, not breaking anything, just tinkering configurations to make sure everything is working stable. There's no performance impact to the end user. It's kind of like you're walking a tightrope, if you will, and you have to make sure it's correct every time, which can be a bit of a challenge.
Hmm. And so, what sort of stuff are you seeing within client environments, particularly from a threat perspective, that's of interest? You mentioned that when you got into this space, it really struck up a passion. What sort of stuff do you see that really sparks your interest within client environments without giving away too much confidential information?
Sure. So, as I'm sure whoever's watching this knows, ThreatSpike deals heavily in hospitality. So a lot of our clients are hospitality based. Um, One thing we see a lot of is attacks through Booking.com. So if
Okay.
you don't know Booking.com, I'm sure a lot of people do, is a booking site. You can list your property very similar to Airbnb. Clients can book out the property, and there's a whole interface and communication that they support between the client and the person, listing the property. So um, what we see a lot of is attackers getting into client booking.com accounts and sending messages to guests saying that for whatever reason their payment failed, and their booking, is going to be canceled unless they follow a link that has also been sent to the guest, often through booking.com, the actual platform itself, to complete this payment. Now, obviously, we see this a lot because we work within the space, but I was on Instagram the other day and I actually saw a reel that was covering the exact same attack. And
Really?
it had gone, semi-viral. And I'm thinking, well, if Instagram Reels have picked this up, and all these people in the comments are saying, this happened to me, or, I noticed this and whatever, it's a pretty big deal. Um, and it's what we think is quite potentially a very big flaw with how Booking.com kind of handle client interactions. So speaking from our experience with one of our clients, they some of their guests were started receiving these messages saying, you need to pay via link. And what I didn't say was that if you follow this link, it takes you to a fake Booking.com page. It looks exactly to the legitimate page, and it's a payment page. And if the attackers are good, they'll have copied, the guest name already, details about where they're staying. So if they're staying in Dubai somewhere, it will have, branding for the Dubai property they're staying at. So it's really, really convincing. The only really thing that will throw you off is the domain won't be booking.com. So that's something that we always encourage people to check, is that make sure it is booking.com, because if it's an attacker, it won't be from that domain where they take you to. So we see a
Have
lot of
these
this.
have these attacks become has it just been the same style of attack in terms of level of sophistication, or have you seen these attacks even start to become more sophisticated over the last 12 months, for example?
I think we see them as more sophisticated. So we used to just see booking.com accounts get compromised, meaning the attacker would get hold of the password for a client by phishing or however, other vector you might use to steal someone's password, um, and log into their account and start, changing things. Um, but Booking.com have 2FA, so there's a lot of features in Booking.com that you can't access if you're logged in as a user without completing 2FA first. And this is something that really stumped us for a bit because, as I said, back to the real world incident we dealt with, we could see attackers messaging uh, clients of our client, with the same style of what I just described, saying your payment failed, you need to verify, you need to send us more money. Now we were resetting the password for Booking.com on all their users, and yet they were still receiving these messages. And you're
Right.
not able to send messages to guests unless you complete 2FA with Booking.com. All of the 2FA methods we reviewed in the account were recognized numbers. So we're like, either the attacker's done something really, really sophisticated to bypass 2FA here, and somehow they're maintaining access to the account after we reset the password, or something else is afoot. Um, and what we think happened was that the client's PMS system was also compromised.
Property
Um,
management software, yeah. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So this software links into Booking.com, stores data about guests, bookings, all this type of stuff. And we found that this platform wasn't protected by 2FA. There were weak passwords in play, which is just a treasure trove if you're an attacker. Um,
Hmm.
they had very limited logging, so we couldn't really tell exactly what had happened. Um, but we found that Booking.com seemed to operate the chat function on their website via email on the back end. So every time there's a booking, they generate a temporary email address, and all messages sent to the guest to appear in the chat in Booking.com just need to be sent to this email. And there doesn't appear to be any authentication or verification of emails that are being sent to this address before they're appended into this chat. So if the attacker was to compromise the property management system, they're able to find what these temporary Booking.com email addresses are. And if they're then able to send emails to this email address, they get appended into the chat. So you don't need the Booking.com. You don't need to touch Booking.com, actually. You don't need the password. You don't need 2FA in order to message guests in this way. You just blindly
Right.
send emails to this address and hope that you receive money in return, because they're not able to see the guests replying. They're not able to see us talking to the guest. This message just gets added into the Booking.com chat. And if you obviously compromise the PMS system, you have guest phone numbers, you have details about their reservation, you have their names. So you're able to kind of really craft a bespoke, fish that can be really, really effective. And obviously, if you also have their phone numbers, guests complain that they're receiving the same thing on WhatsApp, which is very hard to secure against because we have, no visibility of what the attacker is sending a guest on WhatsApp. And obviously, it's not taking money directly from our client, but it's really ruining their reputation
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
guests because they're being scammed. And they associate that scam with the hotel that they booked with, even if the hotel has no ability to stop this, really. So yeah, this is what we found. So it's been very, very interesting, actually, but obviously very, very devastating as well.
I feel like, and I appeared on a hospitality video series recently, I feel like hospitality is a somewhat of an easy target in terms of the culture is to serve, and also there's a lot of disparate IT systems that they have in place spread across many years. Obviously, different properties do things in different ways, so it's almost like a cocktail for
Yeah,
threat actors to really go after, right?
I would definitely agree, and you even see this when we do like red team exercises, and you compare trying to do a red team in a hotel versus trying to do a red team in a corporate office somewhere. If you go into a corporate office and you're walking around trying to open doors somewhere you're not supposed to be, chances are someone's going to call you out and stop you very, very fast. If you're in a hotel, staff will go out of their way to help you try and get where you're going. So, um, as you say, they have this culture to help. So it can be abused by people who are good at social engineering, which often these attackers really are. So, um, it definitely the kind of the context of the business is very important for thinking about security.
I think that's good advice for every sector, not just hospitality. Culture is really important from a security perspective.
Yeah,
All right, cool. Well, that was interesting information about what's going on within the hospitality environment for sure. Um, Thank you for your time, Chandler. It's been much
of course.
appreciated you jumping on with me. And if I don't speak to you between now and the new year, have a good Christmas and New Year.
Thank you. You too, James.
See ya.